There was a study done where people thought about doing a bicep exercise, and they show their bicep grew at the end of the study just from thinking about it. Thinks they know exercise, but I am someone who's well trained in anatomy. I have a degree in exercise sports science as well that I didn't mention. Like, I'm very trained in that. I've been an athlete a lot of my life, but getting a trainer, getting an expert involved at, checking in with you, like scanning your body, making sure you're training right, important. And I get into a lot of the hacks in here that you probably don't know, like typically. Obviously, people may have heard high intensity interval training, but how to do that right in 5 to 10 minutes, you can have a lot more impact than doing hours of cardio when it comes to body composition. Also getting into things like intraset stretching and blood flow restriction, and a number of hacks and workouts with intention and what that means, and not just meaning like being intentional, but like literally thinking about your muscle as it's moving, seeing it, flexing it, contracting it, like moving it, like activating it neurologically. This has been shown to actually be effective without even doing an exercise with your muscle. There was a study done where people thought about doing a bicep exercise, and they show their bicep grew at the end of the study just from thinking about it.
Wow.
So, this is like working out with intention, doing high intensity interval training, blood flow restriction, intraset stretching. All this stuff is like really profound to get like maximal benefits in shorter time.
Yeah.
Routines is the R. So that's like, I get into circadian rhythm, the sleep-wake cycle, how important sleep is, setting up a good morning routine, having a dialed sleep routine in the evening, and kind of wind down routine, getting into things like blue light and the exposure there. Dr. Sachin Panda's data around circadian rhythm and eating in the daylight window. Also getting into fasting, and the role that plays, and when we should fast and how we should fast. And then with growth, I get into the stoic mindset, having a resilient mindset. Much of this book is about a resilient body, but having a resilient mindset is clearly profound. And, stoicism, like Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way. I love the idea of stoicism, and really feel it's like the shift that the universe is always working for you and not against you. And when you look at like Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titans, it gets into these 2 chapters, the R and the G, where all these successful people that he interviewed, they had 2 themes that he found were central themes, vastly different people from all walks of life. But they had a dialed morning routine where they owned their day, essentially, like Aubrey Marcus's book. Like, they know how to own their day and feel like they're in control of what they can control, and that, the day isn't just happening to them, and they're just a unwilling passenger in this process. And the other thing is that they have a resilient mindset, that they see the opportunities in things when other people feel overwhelmed, when other people want to give up, when it seems like there's no option, no answer. These successful people see that as their time to forge ahead, as a unique circumstance, as something that's being offered to them, a lesson, an opportunity, what have you, when other people do not. And so again, and I think that can often start with the training that happens with that routine in the morning. So, that's the R and the G, the routines and the growth. And then lastly is your tribe, and maybe most importantly is who you're putting around you, and getting rid of the energy vampires, speaking of energy, and getting rid of toxic relationships, and being very intentional about who you're putting in that circle. You are the product of the 5 people closest to you. And probably the most important study on anti-aging is the Harvard study that's over 80 plus years running, longest, most robust study in history. And the number one correlative of anti-aging is not genetics, is not socioeconomic status or cholesterol levels or any of this kind of stuff. It is quality of relationships. That's what they found over and over and over. And it doesn't even have to be happy relationships. What they found, like they found like some snippy couples that, you know, weren't exactly like loving to each other, but they were loyal to each other and had each other's backs. And that, obviously, ideally, it would be great if they were happy relationships, but they found that like that alone, just this kind of loyalty and having someone's back, was the most profound, like kind of made the most difference. And certainly having a happier relationship would, you know, further that. But that's important, to have quality relationships, to have people around you that you can trust, that will be there for you. And, you know, in that chapter, I get into the blue zones where people live past 100, these super centenarians. And I've been to some of these places like 𝐦𝐨𝐫𝐞, Costa Rica, where I've lived, or, you know, being in Sardinia, Italy. And these people, like the saying in Costa Rica is pura vida, you know, like it's pure life. And they say it like, it's almost like an island time thing. It's like, screw it, whatever, pura vida, you know, or it's like a hello. It's like, you know, I'm just chilling. And, and you find in these cultures that these cultures slow down a lot. They're not controlled by time, like typically are as Westerners. They do meals that take 2 or 3 hours. They're very patient. They make those meals. They sit down with those meals. They sit down with their loved ones and they enjoy, and it nourishes them. And, you know, I think this is where, you know, alcohol, you know, can get really confusing on the data. You know, people talk about red wine a lot, but I think in Sardinia, like what could be interesting is that it could be what's called a psychosomatic anchor, where the taste of red wine when sipped, especially a high quality wine, could be the anchor for your body saying, I'm safe, I'm supported, I'm having nourishing food, nourishing relationships, nourishing conversations. You know, versus like if I pound a beer with, you know, loud music at a bar, you know, it's like, it's very different, a very different experience. And so that's hard to tease out, but it's something I've been exploring. You know, I think when we're eating our food, you know, we tend to be like in traffic and, you know, there's music and, you know, you're cutting in and out of lanes and you're stressed. And even if this is, you could be eating celery sticks and whatever, but I believe like that could actually be a psychosomatic anchor for inflammation, for oxidation, because you're in a stress state. And now your body's starting to associate food with stress instead of food or beverage with relaxation. This is where like habits become really important, because they start becoming shortcuts to your brain about what state you're in.